Hello guys, myself Dr. Mahantesh. I welcome you all to the video lecture series of Python application programming on classes and functions, module 4 according to your VTU syllabus. So in my previous video, we have discussed about classes and objects, like how do we create classes and how do we create an instance of a class, we call it as an object. Class, object, whereas objects and instances are interchangeably used according to the application. Here, I create many instances with respect to a class, and thereby I call it as a process of instantiation. I create an object. In this video, we are going to explore classes and functions and try to relate functions with the class, try to relate objects or instances of the class with the functions by taking an example of a time. Here I have a class called time, another programmer defined type where a time records the time of the day. I have a class called time which has been created. Now I can create an instance of time. Time is equal to time of class. You have to call or you have to create an object by creating an instance by calling the class name. And now I can have an attributes of time as hour, minute, and seconds. How to create an object? Just remember through my previous video, I use dot notations to create an object attributes. Now time dot hour is equal to 11. Time dot minute is equal to 59. Time dot second is equal to 30 seconds. So dot hour, dot minute, dot second are an attributes of an instance time, which is referred to a class time. Now let us just try to create a function print underscore time that takes a time objects and prints the time in the form of hour colon minute colon second. So here I have defined a class time with a document with a text inside the class. I have not used any attributes or I have not used any methods or I have not used any variables, class variables. It is just simply a doc string which tells what is this class or what this class belongs to. And I have a function which I have created by the name print underscore time, which has got an input argument of t, which is an object or an instance which has got 3 attributes. Now how to call this function? Just by calling by its name. Okay, now I will create a class. I will create an object of time. I will assign 3 attributes to the object. Now what is time here? Time is an instance of 3 attributes referred to a class time. I can use this as an input argument to your function. Call the function called print underscore time. Call the function called print underscore time and pass the input argument as an instance here. Remember what is time? Time is an instance. Now I could refer to time as an instance or an object with 3 attributes as t here inside the function, whereas the statement inside the function, I could refer it as t dot hour, where I have used dot hour as an attribute to the instant, dot minute, dot second as an attribute values, and I would print I have used percentile point 2 t, percentile point colon, percentile point 2 t. This is a format operator and the values is referred to as t dot hour, t dot minute, t dot second inside the common braces. If I run this program, you could see I have yeah, I have 11 hours, 59 minutes and 30 seconds. So after this, I would like to discuss about pure functions and modifiers, which is a major part of this topic in module 4 part 2 discussion. So I have a pure functions which can be demonstrated using two kinds of functions. One is pure function and modifiers. They are also an experimentative demonstration towards developing a development plan of a project called prototype and a patch. So pure function is almost, it demonstrates a prototype in development of a project, and whereas a modifiers can be referred to as a patch in your development plan. Basically, it is a way of tackling a complex problem. So we usually start with a simple prototype, which is also called as a pure function, and incrementally deal with the complications by implementing modifiers, also called as patch. So just remember, what is a prototype? Prototype is something which you have created as a small version, like as an experimental version. Now once you start using that prototype, now you start getting a queries from the user, like queries with respect to some modifications, like so now you try to use this input in order to create a modifier or create a patch and allow the user to operate on that program again. So here prototype is a basic version or an initial version of a program in our development plan, and patch is something which is based upon the user input or a query input. You try to modify a couple of issues in your prototype, you call it as a patch. So pure function is a function which creates a new time object. Here I have consider the same example of time. So what I do, I use a pure function to create a time object, initialize its attribute and returns a reference to the new object. I'm not going to change anything. I'm not going to modify the object here. So this is called a pure function. So it does not modify any of the objects passed to its argument, and it has no effect at all. So let us see an example here. I have an example of class time, and I have created a function. See here, carefully observe. I have created a function add underscore time, which adds to time. Suppose I have started recording this video at 12:30 p.m. say for example. So that would be my time T1, 12:30, 12 hour, 30 minutes and say around 20 seconds. So what is my T2? By the time I complete my video, say for example, my time of completing the video is a 1 hour, 20 minutes, 40 seconds. So I want to find the actual time now. Say for example, I have started my recording of a video in 9 hour, 45 minutes and 0 second. And the duration of that recording is 1 hour and 35 minutes and 0 second. So if I add this T1 and T2, I could find the present time. What is the present time? 10 hour, 80 minutes. So if you're adding simply these two durations, T1 and T2, so it would end up giving me 10 hours, 45 plus 30 is 80 minutes and 0 second. Let us deal with this unpleasant result later, because there is no time mentioning 10 hour, 80 minutes. It would rather be 11 hours, 20 minutes and 0 seconds. That we shall see later. So here what I have done in pure function, I have created add underscore time as a pure function where I take two instances T1 and T2, which has been given by the user. And here, carefully observe, I have created another instance that is sum is equal to time inside this class. I am not going to vary anything with respect to these objects T1 and T2 or instances have not been touched or not been changed. Remember. So what is sum now? Sum is equal to the new instance time. Sum dot hour is equal to simply t1 dot hour plus t2 dot hour. That is hour at first time instance and hour at second instance. What is sum dot minute? Sum dot minute is an attribute of an instance sum which adds t1 dot minute, t2 dot minute, likewise sum dot second, t1 dot second, t2 dot second, and it returns sum. One thing you need to observe, t1 and t2 objects are not changed or modified. And here, the same example I have used in order to print a time which takes input as an instance, which has got three attributes and simply prints the time. So now outside this function, I would call an instance start is equal to time, start out hour 9, start out minute 45, start out second is 0. Remember, I have started my video recording at 9 hours 45 minutes 0 seconds, and the duration which is consumed to record a video, I create another instance. Duration is equal to time. This is the second instance of time. Duration dot hour, I have three attributes again inside this instance, 1, 35 and 0 seconds. Now, what I need to do? I need to call a function add time. I have called the function add underscore time, and I have used these two instances t1, t2 as start and duration. Start and duration. What is start now? Start is nothing but an instance with three attributes, and duration is nothing but an instance with three attributes, and these two will be added here in t1 and t2. t1 dot har, t2 dot har, and I have created this sum as a new instance inside the function, and I'll be adding the hour with hour, minute with minute, and second with second of the first as well as second instances. And I will use this done. So this return sum will return me an instance of three attributes here. So this done is an instance again which was returned by the function which has got three attributes, and this instance is given as an input argument to this print underscore time again for this function, and it will simply print hour. I have given slash n just in order to print minute in the next line, and I have given slash n for seconds in order to print seconds in the next line. So if I run this program, I have hour 10, 80 seconds and minutes and 0 seconds. So if you want to add some seconds to this program, let me add some 20 seconds as well as some 30 seconds. So you can see some changes of 10 hours, 80 minutes and 50 seconds. Okay. Yeah. So since this was completely an unpleasant result, which I am not hoping for, like it should be 11 hours, 20 minutes and 50 seconds. So I have to reduce. If minute is exceeding 60, it has to be brought down to 1 minute, 60 minutes to 1 hour, and the remaining values should be kept inside the minute. The remain exceeding 60 minutes should be incrementing your hour value. So here's an improved version of the same program. What I have done, I have created a class. I have created add underscore time. I have written these 4 lines, but I have used a conditional statement here. If sum dot second exceeds 60, so reduce the sum dot second by 60 and increment the minute by 1. Whereas if the minute is exceeding 60, reduce 60 from a minute and increment hour by 1. See, I have incremented. If the sum dot second is exceeding 60, I would reduce the count inside sum dot second by 60, and I would increment minute by 1. If minute is exceeding 60, I would increment it by 60 units, and I would increment an hour by 1, and I return the value. I use the same example, 9 hours 45 minutes, 35 minutes, 9 hours 45 minutes been added with 1 hour 35 minutes. So now I would get 11 hour 20 minutes and 0 seconds. So if I take the same example of adding 30 seconds with 20 seconds, so I could get 11 hours 20 minutes and 50 seconds. So this is about your PU functions, and what you need to realize here, how can I create an instance like this? first time, and how can I create a second instance, and passing these instances as an input argument to this function, like what we are saying is a pure function, and getting an output, returning an output. Again, it's an instance, and passing this instance as an argument into another function, which is a pure function, which simply prints hour, minute, and seconds. Maybe here we have done, we have used some conditional statements. What will happen if the time is exceeding 60 minutes after adding or summing a minute or a second? You may use likewise, if the sum dot hour exceeds 24 hours, what should happen? You should not get 25 hour or something like that. So you may add another if a condition here, if it exceeds, so you may call it as a day one or day two, something like that. So since I'm restricting it to a particular day, a time of a day, so this would not be a problem. Okay? Yeah. So next, going to modifiers. So sometimes it might become more useful for a function to modify the objects. Remember, if T1 itself is modified, if the start itself is modified, so which is passed as an parameters or an input. So usually these changes are visible to the caller, and functions that work in this way are called as modifier. So modifiers are a function which modifies the objects. Okay. And here I have created a function called increment, which adds a given number of seconds. See, remember, I'm not adding hours and minutes, only a seconds I'm trying to add here in an increment. So what are the input arguments? So input argument for this increment would be time and only seconds, remember. Okay, so what I do, I have the same set of conditions here. If this is going beyond a minute, so int of m, so we shall see like what is this int of m. I'll take only the integer value of that minute. Why? Because I'm trying to divide this by 60. Okay, and I would take only the integer value that we shall see later. So now I have increment. I have a couple of conditions. I have mentioned it here. So which would simply divide the second by 60, and the integer value will be added to this, and the remaining portion will be written as it is second. This operates just like a modulus operator. Okay. So now say observe here. A start is equal to time. This is an instance of time. Start at hour is equal to 9.45, 9 hour, 45 minutes and 0 seconds. And I have seconds is equal to 7,000. Oh my God. This I had to break it into how many number of minutes. So this hour duration is incremented only by seconds. So I would pass this start. Start is an instance here, but second is an variable input argument here. It's a variable that carries 7,000. So but start carries an instance of 3 attributes: hour, minute, and second of time. So carefully observe here, and print underscore time done. I'll give it to the print underscore time function. So it will simply print the final output of the return time. Now here time dot second is directly added. Time dot second is nothing but 0 plus equal to second. So what is the value here now? It is 7,000. So time dot second is equal to, so here this object itself is directly modified. Remember, I'm not creating an instance of sum is equal to time and then sum dot hour is equal to T1 plus T2. So this is not done here. I'm just trying directly to update time dot second, which is an object directly with so many seconds, that is 7,000. So here as per this condition, yeah, this is exceeding 60 because it is 7,000. So 7,000 divided by 60, you'll get some decimal value. So that 7,000 divided by 60 is reduced by time dot second and again multiplied by 60 just in order to get the integer value. Okay, remember, if I say what is the integer of 7 here, 7,000 divided by 60 will give you some value. Multiply it by 60 in order to retain the number of seconds. And minute, so you are going to increment it by this divided value. You have this division modulus value, you just simply increment it by this value. Suppose I have 120 second. Here instead of 7,000, say I have simply given it as 120. Let us just take a simple example. So what is the value here? So it is exceeding 60. Yes, it is true. What is time dot second by 60? It is how much? 2, right? So it is 2. So it is 2 into 60. 120 is directly reduced by this 120. So it becomes 0. Remember, it is 0. Okay. Now, what is the value here? It is 2. That means it is increased. The minute is increased by 2. Okay. So likewise, you may do this example for your 7,000. So here, if I run this program, you may see this is 9 hour 47 minutes. Earlier it was 45 minutes. Now it is incremented by only 2 minutes. So let me change it to 7,000 now. If it is 7,000, I need to check with the minutes, whether the minutes is exceeding 60. It's very important. Why? Because 7,000 would definitely exceed this 60 seconds, okay, 60 minutes. So it will, you have to increment the hour. Yeah, see here, 9 hour 45 minutes with an increment of seconds only. Okay. Now, if you want to say, if you want to increment duration, say duration, I shall use the same example. If I want to increment the duration by including all these 3 parameters, that is hour, minute, and second. Okay, let me just paste it here. I'll create another instance called duration. Now I should give an input, not seconds, but it should be, remember, it should be a duration. Okay, happy? Now go back to my function program. Now this is not only time dot seconds. Remember, this is what? This is a duration. Now, if this is a duration, now this is not only time dot second, but also what? Time dot hour plus equal to duration dot hour. Remember, duration dot hour, because I am trying to modify the object directly, the initial object. I am just simply adding the duration dot hour. Likewise, I have time dot minute with duration dot minute, time dot minute with duration dot minute, and I have time dot second with respect to duration dot. I'm going to add this with duration dot, yeah, second. This is also fine. Okay. Again, I'm getting 11 hours 20 minutes 20 seconds. I hope you're following this, because 0 is added with this 20. The only small thing you need to observe is here, directly the objects have been modified. Here, I have created a new instance and I have not modified any object, either T1 or T2 in my previous example, that is a prototype or a pure function. Now here in modifiers, I do modify the object, that is time dot hour, time dot minute, time dot second. Earlier program was only second. So let me just try to go back to my original program, so that I have to, I shall share this part of code with you people, so that you may first execute the program with the given data. Then you try to modify a couple of instances, couple of values, attributes, and then try to change the program and just verify how your modifiers and prototypes or functions would behave. Okay, what are pros and cons of pure function and modifiers? Anything that can be done with modifiers can also be done with pure functions. Programs that use pure functions are faster to develop and less error prone. See, pure functions are faster to develop and less error prone. Why? Because once you change the value of, once you modify the object, so that it becomes very difficult to regain the original values. Modifiers are convenient at times, but functional programs tend to be less efficient. I always recommend to write pure function whenever it is required. If you have some changes, if you identified some problem, and if it is reasonable, try to use modifiers only if there is a compelling advantage. Otherwise, the approach might be called as a functional programming style only. You use functions, pure functions as it is. So with this, I would try to conclude my module 4 part 2 video on classes and functions. So in next coming video, I'll be discussing on classes and methods. How would function become a method inside a class if you're trying to include a function inside the class? And there are a couple of issues that you need to take care if you want to make a function as a method, that we shall see, explore more in coming video with respect to classes and methods. I have a small assignment followed by this video. If you have watched this video, then only will be getting this assignment question and will be able to write an answer. So I would instruct all of you to just go through what do you mean by prototyping versus planning, and explain prototyping versus planning with an example of considering the same time function. And is this function correct? What happens if second is much greater than 60? So explain this concept using the function, the time function, prototyping versus planning. What is prototype and what is planning? And once you watch this video, it will be posted on Edmodo. Once you watch this video, kindly attend the quiz, complete it within the given time, and complete the assignment. Hope you have enjoyed this video. Thank you one and all. Stay home and stay safe.